Hello and welcome to a brief demonstration of new features in the M6 milestone of the lunar release of the Eclipse Papyrus project. Today we'll be looking at improvements in the handling of read-only resources. So to start, let's have a look at the state-of-the-art in the M5 milestone for comparison purposes. So here we have a model that has a profile applied. I've got a class that is stereotyped as some kind of J2EE bean. I don't know anything about J2EE, but there you have it. And it imports some primitive types from the UML standard primitive types library, which in M5 are known to be read-only because they are imported from a model deployed in a plugin, and also from another model in the workspace, a package of additional primitive types, such as a social security number. So let's start by visualizing this type on the diagram here. I can make changes to this as much as I like. What I am in fact doing is, in the context of this demo model, I'm editing another model that might very well be open in another editor in the same workbench, so that I can make conflicting changes, and when I go to save, I've got issues of dirty updates and reconciliation of changes to do. So that's not ideal. I have no real indication of the potential pitfalls of this scenario in the UI. Another issue that I have is I can drag out, say, the string primitive type here to visualize it. That's fine. I can't do any edits to it. That's all right. The appearance I can edit, of course, because the view of this primitive type is in the diagram in my workspace model, so that's okay. That's great. And I can't edit things like the name and so on, but there are indirect ways in which I can make changes to this thing that aren't so good. Let me add a dependency branch like this, saying that the person extent and the primitive type string are both dependent on the person bean. Doesn't make sense, but it illustrates a point, which is that I have now edited this dependency element that lives in this model in my workspace to add another client element in the dependency. But the problem there is that the client reference has an opposite. If I look here, I have now updated this string primitive type in this model that's supposed to be read-only to reference this dependency element in a model in my workspace as a client dependency. That's no good. So I can save this model and I can close it, unload all these models and libraries and everything, open it up again, and I've got a dangling reference. I've got problems because loading this primitive type library from the plugin again is not going to have this dependency reference. So that's no good. So that was a pretty subtle example of accidental edits to resources that we really should not be able to modify. But we can be a little more blunt than that. For example, the palette tools in the diagram editors, they're not aware that this is a model element that we shouldn't be able to add to. So we can blithely go and add a new attribute to the string primitive type. It does know that we can't edit that attribute, anything about it, but yet we were able to add it. And, that's changes that we aren't going to be able to save anywhere because this library, again, is deployed in a plugin and it is not modifiable. So let's have a look at what changes we can look forward to in the M6 milestone. All right, so here we are in a nearly M6 version of the Papyrus workbench. And immediately we can see one change in the Model Explorer, which is also a new feature in this milestone, that imported or referenced packages are shown at the top level of the Explorer for our convenience. That's a feature contributed by Camille, and which is also more sensitive now to read-only concerns. So, for example, one of the concerns that we had in M5 was that I might make edits to library models that are referenced by the model that I'm editing that, are in the workspace and they are properly modifiable in that context, but they might be open in their own editor. So we provide a visual cue that this model and its contents should be treated as read-only unless we find it absolutely necessary. So in that vein, we can begin by, say, dragging out the social security number type to visualize it on the diagram. And indeed, the property sheet treats the UML semantics of that element as read-only. But in the usual way, because this diagram, again, is in the model that we're editing here, all of the properties of the visualization, the appearance, are naturally editable. If I really want to, I can make changes to it, such as adding, and the result is that I get prompted what I'd like to make this referenced library model file writable. So if I do that, then for the duration of this editing session on this model, that is now modifiable. So I've told the system I know what I'm doing. I'm probably not editing this in any other editor, and it's all good. So that's one new aspect of this feature for M6. Another is the problems that we have in protecting ourselves against edits to really absolutely read-only models that we have no way of saving changes to, and that it really doesn't make sense to edit. So one of the scenarios that we saw in the M5 workbench was, let's add a property to the string primitive type from the UML primitive types. Well, that's just not allowed anymore. We get the nice little no smoking sign cursor. As usual, we can't edit it in the property sheet. Of course, the appearance properties are editable because, once again, this is a notation view in the model that we're editing here in the workspace. And the other more subtle scenario that we had with the dependency branch, again, we're not even able to draw the dependency branch in this direction anymore because the palette tools are now aware of consequences such as setting inverse references. I can, of course, do it in this order, but that's okay because that doesn't making the primitive type here a supplier of this dependency. There is no inverse reference on the supplier role. If I'm really determined to get this inverse reference set, I can go into the advanced properties of the dependency and add a client, and I'll choose the string primitive type to the dependencies clients, add, and whoops, we get an error dialog saying this operation was rolled back because it modified this read-only object. In fact, that wasn't even the string I was thinking of. It was a string primitive type in another library model, but it's all the same. So that is a change that we weren't allowed to make, and indeed, it did not take effect. That's a last-ditch sort of backstop to protect against corruption of our models. And there you have it. Improved handling of read-only models and libraries in the M6 milestone of Papyrus Luna. Thank you.